Good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure this morning to have, I'm going to call him Coach RonBanner on here. I'll let Ron get talk to you about his official title and everything, because I've watched Ron for a number of years in his professional career. But Ron and I met as coaches during football, and I got to watch Coach work with a number of young men, and just have always had a passion to just follow him and use him as a role model of how I conduct myself with people and professionally, and always try to reach out and help others. And Coach Banner, and I'll let you go, but Coach Banner has always been there for his community, teams, anybody that asks of him. And thus I asked this morning for Coach to get on here and talk to you guys a little bit about building giants, his career path, his professional path, his personal monuments to keep him going forward, marching every day. This is still part of our win series and building giant series of just great servant leaders in our community. So Coach, just my honor to have you on this morning, and the team will be wide open. They may have questions for you at the end, but if you want to go ahead and just lay it out there for us, appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Devin, thanks for thinking of me. It's always a little bit awkward when, you're kind of on the spot to talk about yourself, but it also feels good to be recognized for some of the things that have happened. I will say, as you say, you've kind of looked to me, I'm sure that there's moments in time when my demeanor or behavior, or maybe the words that were coming out of my mouth, were things not to do. But I think that's learning, right? And so, yeah, my name's RonBanner. I'm the son of a first sergeant in the military. My dad spent like 26 years in the Army, and for a long time I thought I was a corporal in the military, because I think I got the boot a lot more than some of his soldiers did. My mom was a German woman, German born. They met in Germany, and so my life was full of structure, and you better not step out of line or there's going to be consequences to crossing lines. I'm a husband of 27 years now, almost 27 years, to a great wife. She's a principal up in the Highline School District. I'm the father of 3 awesome but imperfect adult children. I still sometimes ask, why did you pass that trash can? You see it's full, you're 22, take it out. Like, you should know that. But I also learned that the brain doesn't stop developing until 27. Not an excuse, because I still hold them accountable to that. I have a grandson now who is 1 year old on Saturday, and I have 2 more grandsons on the way. I think I'm going to have a team pretty soon. They might be close enough in age that I can actually coach them. I'm kind of a family over everything mentality person, right? Family first. If I don't have my family in front as that guiding principle, then why anything else? Nothing else seems to make sense. And so I always look to make sure that my family's taken care of, hold them and folks to high standards, try to be a servant leader, right? High levels of accountability, but also high levels of support. I learned when I took over as superintendent of this school district, I learned that through a mentor, you're not a leader of a school district, you're the leader of the people in the school district. And I think that applies to any department, any industry, because if you're not taking care of the people, what's the purpose? It's the people that make up the what, right? The industry. Pick an industry. This is my 29th year in public education. I started as a teacher, did that for 8 years, got my administrative credential from University of Puget Sound, became an assistant principal in this district. This is only the 2nd district I've worked in. I've been blessed in that regard. Was an assistant principal for 3 years. I took over an elementary school for 1 year. Then they asked me to take over a struggling middle school. Did that for 8 years, and kind of did what we call a turnaround process for that middle school. That was, a lot of learning there. Again, I initiated that by attacking the systems. When I say attack, just kind of jumping into the systems and the stuff. And then a couple years later, I was like, we got to deal with the culture here. Like, we have to deal with why people come to work. And so I brought in a consultant to help walk side by side with me as we started to work on the culture. I don't know what the phrase is. It's like culture eats whatever for lunch, right? Or breakfast. And it's true. Because with a culture, you build sustained improvement, you build sustained effort. If you just deal with a couple of things, those things might go away the next day or the next year. And now you're back to square one. When you build a culture, when something leaves, that culture only allows what left us to come back into us, right? So you look for the attributes of your culture as you hire, whether it's the principal of a school or the custodian of a school. You're looking for certain cultural attributes that build your culture. From there, I applied for and became the assistant superintendent for elementary schools in this district. I did that for 3 years. And then I was appointed as the deputy superintendent. And 6 years ago, or 5.5 years ago, they had the opening for superintendent. So then I went through the application process and was hired as the superintendent. This past year, I was named the Washington State 2025 Superintendent of the Year, which was a great honor. And as people come to me and say, hey, nice job, congratulations, the first thing I say is it's a great reflection of our school district. It's a great reflection of the teachers and the paraeducators and the grounds crew and the finance department, because truly it is. And yeah, and I jokingly said it, I'm not giving it back, but as I give credit to it, it's not credit to me, it's credit to everyone in our district that helps us be what we can be, which allows me to be what I can be. My history of, being a mentor to young people, again, being a teacher, being a volunteer football coach. I sit on several boards in Lakewood, the YMCA Advisory Board, the Lakewood Promise Board. There's the Lakewood Multicultural Coalition Board. So a lot of things that I do, and I just listed all those intentionally. I actually have the list in front of me because I wanted to make a certain point with that. Is I talked about things that I do and I talked about things that I am. And I want to make sure that I say this out loud, is that it's not the things that you do that make you who you are. It's the things that you are that make you good at the things that you do. And I've embraced that over time. I didn't know that when I was 23 years old or when I was even 40 years old. I learned that over a long road of making mistakes and learning and having successes and learning. Because a lot of times people go, oh, you're the superintendent. Wow, ... I'm like, yeah, no, I'm the superintendent. And the reason that I feel like I can excel at that is because I'm a dad. And I've learned a whole lot with my 3 children. I remember my oldest, Zachary, who you can see the jersey behind me. He played in the NFL. And I just remember him whining to me as a grown-up in college, like about something his brother did, right? Well, if I would have done that, I would have gotten so much trouble. And I looked at him, I said, you know what? You're right. Thanks for helping me become a better dad, because he was my first. And I didn't know jack crap when it came to being a dad. You think you know, but you really don't.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I embrace is the mistakes and the experiences helping me become better for the next thing, right? I always tell my football kids, hey, great, we got to win. And whatever we just did needed to have made us stronger for this next round of something that we're going to do. And I think that is not just football, that's life as well. So the things that I am, are what make me good at or successful at the things that I do. And so I think that's just important to embrace, because those things can get twisted up really quick, right? Yeah. You can really, people can get we call it a big head, or just get their priorities shifted really quick. So I try to stay focused on, why am I doing what I do? I would tell people, and sometimes I think they just thought it was like a metaphor or something that I said, and it's really something that I do, like, is look in the mirror every night, and say, did you do your best today? And if I didn't, then the question is, what are you going to do tomorrow that's going to make you say yes when you look into the mirror tomorrow night? And it's, it doesn't always have to be holding the mirror up to your face, right? You just sit and reflect on it. And then it's in the morning, what am I going to do today that helps me say yes to that question tonight, or at least get as close to a yes as I can? Because not every day it's going to go the way that you want it. Um, Matter of fact, most days don't go anywhere close to what you want, which is why we do what we do. And and again, it's you were able to shift um, but you have to be rooted in something, right? If you're not rooted in that something, then it's so easy to stray from the things you know you need to accomplish, right? Whether that's in work or in life, whether it's with your kids, whether it's, making sure that you got those flowers or said something to your wife that's going to make her go, yeah, that's why I married that guy. Um, so one of the things that I also grab onto, and forgive me if I rant and ramble, and I'll try not to go on too many tangents, but one of the things that I try to grab onto and I try to teach this, especially to young people, is there's two things that you are absolutely in control of. Nobody can say, oh, it's that person's fault or it's that person's fault. And there's two things, and that's your attitude and your effort, right? What you bring to the table and how hard you work to get whatever it is. I'm an extremely competitive person. We did Strength Finders in our district, which is a series of surveys, and then you kind of get your top 5, top 10 attributes. And I literally have mine right up there, and it's competition is my number one. And that can be a strength, and it can also be, a deterrent. Like sometimes you got to go, okay, is this really the place you want to be competitive? My answer is usually yes, but it's not always the right answer. But your attitude and your effort, no matter what you're doing, if you're playing football, if you're studying for a test or prepping for whatever, your attitude is 100% on you, and your effort is 100% on you. So as I lock into that, if I'm teaching something to someone else, boy, I better be living it. And so my goal is to live. Anything that comes out of my mouth is to make sure I live it. Not perfectly, right? Again, my wife will tell you I'm not the perfect husband, and she puts me in check quite often. And that's another thing, is you got to be open to being, I say, put in check, to being called on your stuff, whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be harsh, right? So if I'm going to have high expectations and high accountability and high support for my team members, then I have to be open to them coming and saying, hey, that didn't feel good. And I've, learned how to do that over time. There's moments in time when somebody does that, and I might say, you know what, I'll tell you a quick story. When I was a principal, it was the band teacher. I won't say his name because somebody might know him, but I just kind of chewed him out a little bit. He was outside my office door. It was kind of in public, not a ton of people around, but he did something. I don't even remember what it was, but I kind of snapped at him a little bit, and I played position, a little bit, like I'm the principal. And to his credit, he came to me a little bit later and he says, I understand what you were saying, but I don't feel good about the way that happened. And I looked at him and I said, hey, Chris, I'm sorry. I agree with you that I shouldn't have done it that way. And I also followed up by saying, I won't change the message. The message is the same. I could have delivered it in a better way, right? So I had to be open to that, because I'm not, in the moment, I was being a positional leader, right? I was leading the school. In retrospect, I had to understand, in that position, I had to lead the person. And again, everybody's different. So you're dealing with a football team. If you've got 40 kids on that team, or adults, whatever, that's 40 different people. It's like raising kids. I have 3 kids. They all are distinctively different. All 3 of them are distinctively different. I have 5 board members it's like herding cats sometimes. I don't know if they ever want me to say that. They're elected officials, and it's 5 different personalities. And if we go on a professional development, man, it's like I got to make sure that they're not at the Starbucks line when we're boarding the plane. It's like herding cats. But again, you got to drop I had to drop the position piece and lead people, because it's people that are standing behind you when crap hits the fan, right? And so when I'm leading people, it's push every ounce of praise to those people and absorb every ounce of criticism into your own shoulders. Doesn't mean you're not going to go have a conversation with a person if something went wrong. But when you're out in public, man, it's hey, I didn't like ... I'm absorbing that. That's on me. I'm not even saying, yeah, but I'm just saying, you know what? We need to reflect and see what we can do better, yada, yada. But when somebody says, hey, your math department is, wow, your math scores are really good, I'm immediately saying that team of teachers is awesome. They are working their tails off. So it's really, in terms of leadership for me, pushing out the praise, absorbing the criticism. Again, it doesn't mean I've just let dumb stuff go by, right? I'm good at pretty good at difficult conversations. What I've learned over the years is script those conversations out so you can really have a conversation about the issue, not the person, right? If somebody's personalities get in the way, I'll have that conversation. I think what I'm going to circle back to what makes you successful is the people. And in order to have that, you have to be a servant leader. You have to know what their needs are. You have to give them those things and support, not blindly support. I always tell folks, I will support you, but it will not be with shutters over my eyes, because then I'm not supporting their growth. Maxwell around leadership has these 5 levels of leadership. And level 1 is kind of that rudimentary, yep, I'm your supervisor. Level 5 is I've developed you to take my place. I'm building the skills in you to take my place. And I think that's, Devin, what's really awesome about what you're doing here is you're providing opportunity for your team to build their capacity to one day being in the upper left-hand corner of my screen, just because that's where you are right now, providing an opportunity for others, right? When I leave this space, I don't want people to go, he was a great superintendent. He did really good as a superintendent. I want them to say he was a good man. He was a good father. Yeah. He was a good husband. He was a good community member. I've been in this district for 22 of my 29 years now. And I get touted for being out in the community. It's like one of my strong points, right? Because if we don't build the foundation of this community, our kids have no hope. They have no hope. Now, selfishly, I want these kids to do well so that they can work and my Social Security is intact. But truthfully, we want these kiddos to be able to come in and establish the foundation that we're working our way out, right? We're working our way to a space called retirement. At least I am. Yeah. And I want to make sure that these kiddos have every opportunity to be the next layer and to build the layer after them. And that's what I call legacy living. I want people to recognize a legacy as I leave this office or as I leave this earth, right? Not so sure I want to talk about my celebration of life, but when people talk about me, I want them to talk about the fact that this kid played football, never played another down of football, but everything he learned in football, he applied to life, right? He became a good dad, a good husband, a good coach, a good whatever in terms of employment. So I'm going to kind of pause there. I think that, I feel a little awkward. I'm hoping that there's little pearls of wisdom, like there's something that you grab onto, and at some point you can go, yeah, that guy that talked forever, I learned this little piece. Like he talked forever, but I grabbed a little nugget of goodness from him. I'm happy to answer any questions, engage in any, we can just have discussion.
Coach, that is perfect. And a couple of things, I take some notes and I'll let the guys go here. But one of the things I love and is, part of our founding principles is we instead of me. That we accomplish this, and especially one of the things that we just get rid of is the I in the process, right? That we did it. Somebody put you in the place to have the opportunity to do it. Somebody came before you, so we just focus on that. So I love that you said that. I have a couple questions since you get to see this all the time, and I want people to understand how important this is. First question I have for you is you talked about who you are and what you do, and it's just a little bit of advice for some of the younger guys on here, or everybody that might be in a stage of like, I know who I am and I want to be this. What's the investment? What's the work that you put in, or what kind of advice can you say is like, I'm a young person, I want to be married, or I want to have a job, or maybe I want to pad my retirement, or what advice would you give to transform? Because that's one things that one of the things we focus on too is not being transactional, just doing an exchange, that we try to be transformational, right? And so what advice would you give for somebody to say, I'm here, I know this is in me, how do I get to here?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say start by backwards planning, right? What's the end that you want to accomplish? And then
Mm-hmm.
just kind of backwards plan and look at realistic spaces that you need to engage in to get to that end. And so if that's more money, if that's a good relationship, if that, and as you do those things, let down what you think you know and really dive into what will it take to get X, whatever X is. Um,
Yeah.
be specific about the strategies that it takes, and don't be afraid to ask someone else, hey, I want to do X, what do you think it's going to take? I have a nephew who's in a handyman service right now, and he's probably 32 years old, and he's working, because if you're a handyman service, you're working, but he also wants to talk about retirement and how does he build a nest egg and buy a house. And so he'll come and ask, and so I don't know that I have all the answers, but find somebody who's been there, maybe done that,
Mm-hmm.
or had experiences, and lock in with them. And it doesn't mean that their experience will be your experience, but maybe you just eliminate one thing, or maybe you add one thing to your timeline. Build a timeline of what you want to accomplish, backwards plan that, set those times that you think, I'm going to have to do this in year 2. I'm going to have to do this in year 4. I need to do this in year 8 or year 24. And be specific about the things and strategies that you need to do to accomplish those things, and then be open to changing, because life is fluid. Things happen. You might shift or change. So that's a little bit of what I would say is a framework of what to do. Create a good time-driven specific plan that's realistic, right? I want to get retirement buying lottery tickets every week, right? That's probably not it. I mean, buy them if you want, but have a different plan. That might be one of your backups. So yeah, be realistic, be time bound, be specific, and don't be relentless. Like, literally, be relentless. Don't quit, and don't let others be the reason that you quit. Right? Your attitude, your effort.
Yeah, appreciate that. I have one last question for you. Um, it's a topic near and dear to my heart, because we've worked with kids and things have changed. And so it's a multi-layered question here. But one, how have you seen people change over your career, and how important is mental health and reaching out to people next to you that might be struggling, might not show it, and how important it is to just say hi to somebody, and how do you go about that?
Yeah. So mental health's near and dear to my heart. And I'll just say, and I've gotten permission to talk about this. My daughter was a junior in high school when COVID struck, right? And then she was a Running Start student. But I could just see it. And she's dealt with depression and anxiety. And it's kind of like, asthma. Remember when we were kids, some of you guys with gray hair, there was like 1 out of 300 kids that maybe had asthma, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if it just wasn't diagnosed or if it was the food, but mental health is something that's been shunned, even, right? It hasn't just been ignored; it's been shunned. People have these stigmas about it, and it's your one act of kindness could literally save a life. I've had these conversations with our staff, with our kids. Your one act of kindness, your one, hey, are you good? Like, is everything good? Because I'm here if you need me, could literally save a life. Your one act of rudeness or anger or just not being kind could literally take a life, could push somebody to that space. And so it's so important in the workforce today, in school, to engage in mental health is just as important as physical health, right? Because poor mental health leads to poor physical health. And so we're very pointed in the work that we do and the resources that we put into mental health for our students. I don't think we do enough for our adults, for our staff. We have employee assistance programs and that sort of thing. But one of the things we're doing is we're trying to take away the stigma of mental health. I want somebody to say, I'm struggling today. And maybe I'm not coming, I'm taking a sick day, because I'm not going to chastise somebody for taking a sick day because they're struggling with mental health or any health, really. But it's really that follow-up. At the beginning, I'm looking around my desk for I have weekly meetings with my executive council members, and the first thing on every agenda is check-in. And the reason we do that is because I'm not great at that. So it's my reminder to say, how's it going? How's it going at home? How's your kids doing in soccer, right? It's just those little attributes. We have a thing in our district called Give Six, and I stole it from the Fairfax County School District in Virginia. They had 3 to succeed. And the premise of this is, and they had data to show it. So I was like, hey, data's good. We're stealing it. If you gave 3 attributes to students on a daily basis, it reduced their risky behaviors by up to 50%. And we say risky behaviors, we're talking about smoking and vaping, suicide ideation, fighting, skipping class, right? Those kinds of things. And so I was like, hey, if 3 gets you down to 50%, we're going to go 6. And so we called ours Give Six. And so in our district, it's 3 attributes, or excuse me, 6 attributes between the bus drivers to the food service workers, to the teachers, the administrators. We should be able to give every kid 6 attributes, or at least going after that. And so it is a brain researched deal that when you say good and nice things, as simple as good morning, right? Or I like your shoes, or your haircut looks good, which I don't really get that one too often. Usually I get your goatees nice and straight. But those attributes release the endorphins in the brain that make a person feel good about themselves. If you think about if you've ever been to a hotel and you're walking down the hall in the morning, the evening, and one of the service workers, they typically will say something like, good morning, or glad you're here today. They'll give some greeting. Look, at the rudimentary level, they do that so you feel good about being there and you come back there the next time you need a hotel in that city, right? And they make money off of that. So it works. It works. So in terms of the broad base, Give Six is one of our ways. And it's not just for kids, it's for adults. Guaranteed, that's that goodness that you can spread that costs you nothing. You don't even get, it's not even sweat equity. Like you're not even working hard to do that, right? To call someone, hey, how's it going this morning? To do a check-in when you have a meeting, before you sit down to have a meeting, whatever the meeting. Hey, how's the family, right? Now we're building people. We're building people.
Perfect. That's my last question, Coach. Any questions for Ron before we get out of here? It's always a quiet crew. Yeah. And Corey's gone. My one question guy is he's always got 1,000 questions on vacation today.
You can ask
Coach, we'll wrap it up. I have not, on the other thing that we talked about, I have not heard from your person yet. So just make sure they have my contact information.
I will.
And we'll get that. It was a pleasure to talk to you again, Coach, and look forward to sit down and having a hamburger.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. This is a great way for me to start my day.